This book scared the shit out of me. It had really great atmosphere, it has gore, it has really great pacing. Everything that happens in this book matters, and the ending is original for when it happened. And once it does happen, the payoff is quite good. And even the twist ending makes for a good payoff. So, what more could I want out of this book? And it involves werewolves. Another plus. The Werewolf of Fever Swamp is the Goosebumps book that I am reviewing today, and it is also the very first Goosebumps book and horror review video that I will be reviewing on this channel. For those who don't know, I do have a second channel called BD Manga. It'll be linked in the description down below, and on there I actually have a playlist of horror reviews that I did on that channel, but I decided to make the second channel because I thought for my anime and manga fans who are over on that channel, those type of posts and videos might seem random, so I'd rather focus it on here and bring in a new audience and the ones who want to look at this, because I obviously love horror and scary content, and so do you, so that's why I'm bringing it over here. So welcome to the channel. Make sure to subscribe to this channel, make sure to like the video down below, and make sure to comment down below your own thoughts and opinions, whether you disagree or whether you agree with what I'm saying. And let me know your own thoughts and opinions about this book, because this was actually the very first Goosebumps book that I read ever. So not only was it the first one I read, it was also the first one that I read to get back into the series, because what used to happen is when I was a kid, I would buy the Goosebumps books. Well, not buy. I say buy. For a kid, it's like buying. But I would rent out the Goosebumps books from the library, and I would get them just for the cover because I loved the cover so much. But I wouldn't actually read a lot of them. So to get back during 2021, I decided to start reading them, and this was the very first book that I started off reading with. And it was probably the perfect book I could read. I heard it got a lot of positive reviews, and as soon as I read it, up until now, this book has hit every single thing that I expect and want out of a Goosebumps book. First of all, it has a very tense atmosphere. Once you get introduced to the characters, who's Grady, his father, his sister, and also some of the other kids around the neighborhood, and also the swamp hermit, once you get introduced to them and the whole situation, this book has a very scary atmosphere. It all starts off with the actual swamp itself, Fever Swamp. Once they enter Fever Swamp, you get this basically horrific description of how it's very dark and dim because of the trees basically blocking out the canopy. And you have all these, wild animal noises. For anyone that's gone outside, you've heard those noises. You hear all this noises and yelling and, growling and scruffling and rustling, and you don't know where it's coming from. In the forest, it sounds like it's coming from every single direction. So you're basically trapped in this maze, and there's this crazy swamp hermit who's down there that you don't want to run into because he might kidnap you, kill you, do whatever he may do. It's just, a local rumor. And once they encounter him, he's crazy, he's got wild hair, he's this crazy old man. They see these animal carcasses around the area, and they suspect that he might be the one killing them. But these animal carcasses, like chickens and birds and, deer, are killed in such like a horrific, grotesque manner that you think that an animal did it. So it really freaks out the main cast of characters. And even in the swamp itself, there's a specific point where it's this like, I guess like bog? It's this boiling liquid that's all muddy. It's like a greenish color, and the bubbling causes this like weird hissing and noises that comes out of it. And it's all just a terrifying environment with a terrifying person with terrifying events going on. And once you live in an environment like that, you have to go back to your house, and your house is merely within walking distance to this terrifying place. And that sets up how scary the story is, because at the middle of night, they will hear this horrific howling. They will hear scratches outside their door. That's actually the best scene, in my opinion, in this book, is at night when Grady hears scratching outside of his door. He hears scratching, and this, he's hearing the scratching after hearing this horrific howling outside in the middle of the night that he says is super creepy. It invokes this like primal sense of fear that, it doesn't sound natural. Yeah, it's a wolf, but why would wolves be in this area? And also, it doesn't sound like a normal wolf. And now he hears scratching outside of his door. He thinks someone's going to break in. And the way Stein writes it, it's basically just, you imagine yourself being in that situation. And it's terrifying. I mean, I live by a nature preserve, and I don't hear horrific noises. But if I heard scratching outside my door, I think it's some animal, and I know, and mind you, that nature preserve is close to my house, but not like that right behind it. This swamp is right behind their house. It's surrounding their house, in fact. So whatever comes out of that swamp, you have no idea what it could be. And if you hear scratching outside your door, you're going to expect the worst possible thing. You might even think that swamp hermit came out and started scratching on your door, which is actually infinitely a lot more scarier. When a human does it, listen, man, that's my worst fear, yo. I'm scared of animals. You can't fight an animal, especially if you think it's a giant wolf. It would terrify you to think that an animal's scratching on your door. What's even worse is a human doing it, a person taking the time out of their day to play with you and play games with you and do God knows what. If that would have happened, I think this book might have shot up to an adult rating because I would have been terrified. But yeah. So that's the entire environment of this book. So the atmosphere in this book is automatically hit. Next, you have basically like the sort of linear plot line of this book. This book has a very linear plot line, but it stays on track, and every single event that happens in this book actually matters. There have been Goosebumps books that I've read, specifically the ones that involve like adventure. This book, it's another positive I'll get into, but every time you get into like a type of like adventure, more creative Goosebumps book, sometimes you encounter moments where you basically just read it and you get to the end of the book and you're like, what the F was the point of that? Why the hell are we seeing the characters do this? Or why is this happening? It's just there just to like fill up the time in the book, or it's just there to like weird you out, but it doesn't hold any significance. In this book, every single event holds significance. It builds up tension. It builds up the potential plot line of the book. It builds up the characters, or it leads up to the eventual twist. So anything that happens in this book will eventually lead up and build up and set up for the twist at the end of the book, and the big climactic reveal. So the reason why I recommend this book to anybody to read is because when you read it, you're not going to be missing out on anything. Everything's going to lead up to the ending. It's going to make the payoff a lot more better, and you won't feel like you're wasting your time at any point in this book, which I really, really respect. The fact that it stays on track, and it makes you all the more involved and interested in what's going on. And that plays into the positive that I just mentioned. The third positive about this book is that it is a perfect combination of adventure and just limited environment. So when I read Goosebumps books, there are basically two types of Goosebumps books that I've noticed basically what type of direction they go into. It'll either be a book that is extremely adventurous, right? They'll go through many different environments, a lot of crazy stuff will happen, and the adventure takes away. Or it'll be a very contained book, like let's say The Girl Who Cried Monster. That book is very contained. It's only between the library and her house, and it's very to the point, it's simple, and that simplicity is what makes it good. This book is a perfect combination of adventure and that simplicity. You have the house and you have the swamp. Those are the only two areas you visit throughout this entire book, and the house is kind of like the simplicity, the save point. You hear noises outside your window. You see things running around. That's another thing in this book that I forgot to mention for the tension. He sees figures and weird creatures and animals running around that he mistakes for wolf. Wolf is his dog. He mistakes them for being wolf. Sometimes he thinks, is that really wolf? Is that the hermit? Is that somebody else? Am I losing my mind? So all that stuff happens at the house, but you get adventure when you enter into the swamp, because the swamp is a completely unexplored, untamed environment. And once you enter that territory, you enter into a lot of description, a lot of weird noises, a lot of weird events, a lot of weird animals and creatures and stuff that goes on. That all is the adventure part. So this book actually nails simplicity of being contained between two areas while having that one area be so adventurous that you feel like you're still getting a lot of adventure moments when you enter into the swamp. So I think that's something Stein nailed, which helps out the book a lot. It makes it that even though this book is not a lot of crazy stuff going on, the two things that they're bouncing between is scary enough and it is exploratory enough that you will not lose interest. You'll not feel like, oh, this is a boring book. So that does not happen at all. And the fourth positive, the 4 out of the 5 positives that I will say about this book, the fourth one is the fact that the climactic twist in this book, if you read a lot of different books, and I'm sure if you read a lot of Goosebumps books, this ending has probably happened a lot in terms of the climax, but when this book came out, this was probably an original climax, and the way that it's done throughout this book, the way that all of the 3 positives that I listed lead up to this climactic, basically who did it kind of twist, it makes it all the more like, I guess you could say, worth it. It helps out the payoff, and it also makes it a lot scarier because you're led into this false sense of trusting certain people, and you let your guard down. You think that you know everything that's going on, and you think you know everything that's going on because of the fact of the way this story is written. This story is written to point blame at a certain character. It's written to point blame at the swamp. It's written to make other characters and people look innocent. And then when the traitor is revealed, the one, the hey, like Zoink Scoob, who did it? Ruh-roh Reggie, that kind of thing. Figure out who did it. When that happens, you're completely not expecting it. Some of you may expect it if you've read a ton of Goosebumps books before this, but if you're like me, as the first Goosebumps book that I fully read, and I remember because I'm old enough now, that was a worth it twist. That was a great twist. And it honestly helped out the story a lot because I was like, all right, I think I know how the story's going. No, I did not. Once I found out, not only did I need to change my pants because I was like, uh-oh, this is a bad situation. But I also had to clap it up for R.L. Stine while I was on the toilet handling business because I was like, you know what? That was great. And all of that, the 4 positives that I list off, finally lead to the very twist ending, which I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to spoil. I didn't spoil the climax because it would ruin the whole book. And I don't want to spoil the twist ending. But the twist ending is definitely a twist ending, but it plays into that climax. The climax helps out the twist ending. And that twist ending carries on the legacy of not only this environment in this story, but it also carries on the legacy of that character. It carries on the legacy of the adventure, and it carries on for potentially a sequel made. I think there was a sequel made in a comic, but if there was ever a sequel book revolving around Fever Swamp, the lore behind it, and what's going to continue as a result of this book, that ending helps out a lot. So that's the one thing I'll also compliment. Sometimes when you read Goosebumps book, you'll get this twist ending that you're just sitting there like, why? You just made a twist ending just to be a twist ending. And some of them are very predictable. Like the endings might be too predictable to the point you're like, all right, whatever. He just went with the easy route. It's whatever. This book, the ending is not fully random. You'll understand why it happened. And on top of that, you'll be like, all right, I wasn't expecting that, but it does make sense. It does align with the story. The climax helped that out a lot. And you know what? I'm excited. If there was ever a sequel to this book, I'm all ready to read it. And I heard the comic was there, but I don't know if it's that good. So Stein, if you ever think about making another sequel book to Fever Swamp, whether it be the same group of characters, whether it be carrying on the legacy, or whether it be just in exploring the environment, you got my money. I'm here. I'm ready to read, and I'm ready to review. So that's it for this review. Tried to keep it short as much as I can, especially around these Goosebumps books. I hope you enjoyed. This was my review of Werewolf Fever Swamp. To end off this book's rating, I would give it a, I think I might have given The Haunted School a 9.2 in terms of the Classic 62. I'll give this book a 9.3 or a 9.4. It's an amazing book. It is an A to an A+ book. I love it. I might even put this, I ranked it a 9.3 or 9.4. In my opinion, if I had to rank an S tier for the original 62, this will go in there, and this might go into maybe like my S rank, but maybe my A rank at least minimum for my overall Goosebumps ranking once I go to that. And yeah, make sure you read this book. If I had to recommend a perfect Goosebumps book to start off your journey, I will recommend Werewolf of Fever Swamp. It's a perfect package. It has everything involved. No, I'm not sponsored, but Stein, hit me up. I'll accept money all day, every day. Thank you. That's it for this video. Again, make sure to subscribe to my new channel. Make sure to hit that like button down below. Make sure to comment down below your own thoughts and opinions, how you feel about the book, how you feel about my review. What else do you want me to review? What books do you want me to go to next? I still have several books I have to review, but if you want to do any new recommendations, feel free to let me know. And yeah, stay tuned for more content to come. I hope you enjoyed. Deuces. Man, that twist ending, bro. I hope we get a sequel for that. The fact that we got a Planet of the Lawn Gnomes as a sequel to the Lawn Gnomes book, got a sequel to The Invisible Boy, but you can't give me a sequel to Werewolf Fever Swamp. Stein, what are you doing? And I missed. I'm so mad that I missed the ending record. Now I look like an idiot. This is all your fault, Stein.